Hi, this beautiful photo hides a secret. This spectacular scene with this mountain in the background is actually the site of potentially one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. This is Mt Rainier, located at the northern end of the Cascade Range of mountains in the Pacific Northwest of the US. Some geologists think that this volcano poses the greatest threat to human life. What I want us to do in this lesson is assess some of these risks. Now, to do this, we're going to look at this piece of data. This is the hazard map that's produced by the United States Geological Survey to predict the type of hazards that Mt Rainier may well create. Now, I've sent a colour version of this to you with the guidance notes that you can use to help you to answer the questions. We're going to be working on page 17 of your booklets. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to use this map to answer those questions. So press pause now and have a go at those questions on page 17. Okay, let's see what you've come up with. Question A asks you to decide which direction is safest from Mount Rainier. And the answer is the east. The ocean is to the west, so most of the rivers, most of the valleys are going to be flowing down in that direction. Of course, it doesn't account for perhaps ash as a hazard, which distribution is going to be controlled largely by the wind. So the area that's going to be most affected by this volcano is to the west and to the northwest of the volcano itself. So if we look at the hazards that are limited to the volcano itself, the ones that we see perhaps within the national park boundary marked by the dashed line, we can see that we have lava flows as an issue and also pyroclastic flows. Mount Rainier sits by a convergent plate margin. There's subduction going on underneath continental crust there. The volcano here is going to be viscous and explosive. The ones that travel furthest, on this map anyway, are going to be the lahars, because they're very fluid. Now, there is a hazard that isn't mentioned on this map, which is ash, and that will go further than the lahars. But certainly in terms of what we see on this map, it's going to be lahars. Up in the northwest corner of this map, you can see that there's an urban area. It's the city of Tacoma, which is very much in the line of risk from Mount Rainier. It's perhaps the presence of Tacoma and other major settlements in that area. Seattle, for example, is just north of this map. Millions of people live in this area. That's what makes Mount Rainier potentially the most dangerous volcano in the world. We can see some secondary hazards that may come from this. Flooding, as lahars fill up river valleys, landslides, we'll have unstable material being deposited on slopes, potential flash floods as more of that surface ice cap starts to melt. And finally, those of you that had to go at the digging deeper, managing this becomes a real challenge. There's only a certain number of things you can do. Development restrictions, only building in places that aren't shown to be at risk from this hazard map. That is tricky though. The places that are at risk are in valleys. That's where we tend to build things. It's where we need to cross rivers. It's where we need to build bridges. It's crucial that we can predict what's going on. I've given you a link in the lesson guidance notes to the Cascades Volcano Observatory page on Mount Rainier. Well worth a look to see what's going on there now. Planning is part of this as well. The Washington state government, the federal US government, as well as local authorities all need to plan for what might happen, so they're not caught out. Also, everyone that lives in this area, it needs to be a key part of their education about why Mount Rainier poses a risk and what they could do about it. So, as we see a sunset over Mount Rainier, we can get a sense of why this volcano is so dangerous. The potential it has for destruction is huge. But as we've seen earlier on in this theme, the frequency of eruptions of Mount Rainier are quite low. Now that does mean that the chances of it happening, perhaps within my lifetime, within your lifetime, are fairly low. However, it can still happen. And when it does erupt, that large gap between eruptions is going to make the eruption that occurs far more explosive. That finishes the work we're going to do on volcanoes. Next time, we're going to move on to tsunamis. I'll see you then.